Germanwings flight 4U9525 left Barcelona at 10 a.m. local time, bound for Düsseldorf. 144 passengers and 6 crew members were on board. The Airbus A320 crossed the Mediterranean, reaching its cruising altitude of 11,500 meters at 10:27. At 10:30, air traffic controllers in Aix-en-Provence took charge of the flight as it travelled over Bandol. Air traffic control instructed the pilot to maintain altitude and re-establish contact later. The pilot confirmed he'd do this. According to the cockpit voice recorder, the captain then exited the cockpit, leaving co-pilot Andreas Lubitz in charge. At 10:31, the plane began descending without permission. At 10:33, its speed and rate of descent increased. Both were now being controlled manually. Black box recorders revealed between 10:34 and 10:40, the cockpit cabin call was triggered 4 times, 11 blows were struck against the cockpit door, muffled voices called for the door to be opened. From 10:33 to 10:39, air traffic control in Marseille tried to contact the crew 11 times. The French air defense system tried 3 times, there was no answer. At 10:40, an alarm warned the pilots to pull up from the ground. It continued until the end of the flight. Other alarms also sounded. At 10:41, recordings stopped as the plane hit the mountainside. In total, the descent lasted 10 minutes. The aircraft crashed into the French Alps.
French investigators into the crash of a Germanwings plane in the Alps last year say a private doctor had recommended that the pilot should be treated in a psychiatric hospital 2 weeks before the disaster. Andreas Lubitz had a history of severe depression, and prosecutors believe he deliberately brought the plane down, killing all 150 people on board. Several private doctors had information that the co-pilot was ill. Some even knew that he was a pilot by profession. However, this information was not passed on to the aviation authorities and wasn't passed on to the employer, Germanwings. Investigators found that Lubitz had researched suicide methods and concealed his illness from his employer. It's thought he locked others out of the cockpit on the flight from Barcelona to Düsseldorf before crashing the plane in the mountains. The BEA recommends reinforced medical supervision for pilots and for the right to medical secrecy to be ended in the event of psychological problems, saying current guidelines on when public safety takes precedence aren't clear enough. But it doesn't recommend any change to cockpit rules strengthened after 9/11, saying it's impossible to create a system to prevent threats from both inside the cockpit and potential terrorist threats from outside.
Co-pilot Andreas Lubitz deliberately crashed the plane into the French Alps, killing all 150 people on board flight 9525, and that flight was from Barcelona to Düsseldorf. Half an hour into the flight on March 24th of 2015, the captain handed the controls to Lubitz and went to the restroom. When he returned, he found the cockpit locked from the inside. Lubitz had disabled the safety code that would have allowed the pilot to open the door. Shortly afterward, the Airbus A320 aircraft hit the ground. Lubitz had been treated for depression and suicidal tendencies. One of the report's recommendations is more stringent medical checks for airline pilots.